Oye, Beltalada. Me and these koyos are going to talk about the Expanse. Sasake. Pampa. Anyway, thanks so much. That's about the extent of my belter. But anyway, thanks so much for joining. I'm joined here by two guests. We're going to talk about the first 3 episodes of season 5 of The Expanse, which I'm so happy about. We're just going to go ahead and roll into all 3 episodes at once. Since they were dropped at once, might as well talk of that once. But first of all, let me introduce my guest. Joining me hopefully every week and the co-host in these Expanse discussions is Darren for D's Reviews. Thanks so much for joining.
Oh, Mark, thank you so much for having me on. I've been waiting for this season to drop, and I was just waiting for midnight here on the West Coast to pass so I could start the show off. So, yeah, really a lot to dive into, a lot to talk about, and I can't wait to share, the rest of the season right here on Enchantment Fraternity with you.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I think they dropped the 3 episodes like earlier Tuesday night because I went on like at 11 East Coast time and they were all there. Oh. And I heard like some people had already watched them. So I think they like dropped them like super early or something, which surprised me.
Well, see, that just lets you know I should have started earlier. I was just waiting like, okay, as soon as midnight, I'm on to Amazon. So, all right. Well, that's me for not jumping the gun there.
But anyway, also joining us, Alyssa. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you. Some of us have to work early the next morning, so we can't wait up until midnight. So I watched it yesterday evening after I was done with work, but was still just as good if I had watched it at midnight. So that's fine.
All right. So what did we think? What did we think of these 3 episodes overall? See, for me, and this is why part of the reason why I love these discussions is because neither of you have read the books and I have. So it's interesting to get a perspective of those who haven't read the books, because for me, like, I guess I was sort of pumping the season up because book 5 was, I don't know if it was my favorite book, but it's a lot of people's favorite books. And when I first read book 5, I was like, I can't wait to see this on the TV show. This is going to be so awesome. And so I was pumped for the season. So this first 3 episodes really did not disappoint. They really held up to the standards. They're mostly setting the stage, but they're doing such a great job of setting the stage. So I wonder, I will start with you, Alyssa. What were some of your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Do you think it sort of gave a good impression for the beginning of the season?
Yeah, yes, they were definitely all setting the stage or putting the pieces on the chessboard or whatever other metaphor you want to use for that. And I was expecting that to be the case. And what I wanted to get out of these episodes was that to be drawn in and like intrigued and ready for the rest of the season. And that these first group of episodes did accomplish that. Although I will say, for me personally, it took really until episode 2 before I was drawn in. I gotta admit, I found episode 1 kind of boring. Like, I was on my phone and I actually didn't even was half paying attention, didn't even really know or care what Bobby Draper was doing until I watched your review and you explained it. I was like, oh, that's what she was doing. So, but it took it honestly until episode 2 before I really felt drawn in. But then it ends with episode 3 with that big asteroid hitting Earth. And then, I'm definitely, by the end of it, really hooked and ready to see what happens in the rest of the season. I haven't read the books, as you mentioned, so I have no idea. So I'm excited about the rest of the season. So the first 3, they were set up, but they did their job. They set the stage for hopefully a really good season.
Yeah, I just realized I forgot to give my spoiler warning for the show up to episode 2. But most people clicking on the video like that, you should know that.
Yeah.
You should know better than that.
Well, you're spoiled now. Sorry.
Yeah. We should know better. So
well, when I had my channel, I was very against spoiler warnings. I would sometimes give sarcastic spoiler warnings, if you clicked on a video like this and you're expecting that to be spoiled, you have nobody to blame but yourself. But here's a spoiler warning. Anyway.
especially how long these tend to go, hour, 2 hour non-spoiler discussion. Yeah, that's not really going to happen.
Yeah.
But one thing I won't spoil is stuff that happens after these 3 episodes. So.
Yeah, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, definitely not. But anyway, Darren, so what are some of your thoughts? What's your reaction to these first 3 episodes?
Well, I was really looking forward to this season also. I know you and I discussed a little bit in and around season 4 of this next book. And, in some of the previews, especially the idea of Amos going back to Baltimore and getting a little bit more into his story. Ultimately, the more Amos you give me, the more excited I'm going to be. But by far, Amos is probably one of my favorite characters on TV right now. Overall, I love how he is presented. I love Wes Chatham's presentation, and I love the complexity and simplicity of the character, which was just fascinating. So that had gotten me kind of excited. And you're right, it doesn't disappoint. It's a little different since the crew is sort of split up, and it's very much individual stories going up. I mean, yeah, Alex and Bobby sort of connect. But even way, I mean, so much even from Naomi's kind of initial discussion with Holden there about going off to see Philip, it's like, no, I'm going. You're staying here. So it really from the get-go let us know that these are going to be a lot of individualized stories. It's going to be different from the Rocinante crew that we expected. But again, each story is interesting. The characters are in it. The actors know the characters so well, even with the small little bits that we get, because there are so many desperate stories, or separate stories, we still really sink right into the emotion and drive for what's going on with everyone. The one question I did have, and I don't know if maybe you guys have, you two have a way of, about this. Did the art direction change? Was there anything in that? Because I felt there was almost a Marvel feel to it. Like everybody had gotten their personal trainers and it had worked out. The clothes were very, form-fitting. And I know it's showing that the crew's a little more successful now. They've got a little more cash with them. But there was kind of a crispness, almost like a next generation feel to the art style to it. And I didn't know if either of you knew if there was a change of art styling. Was that intentional, or is it just showing the evolution of where they are in, status wise with their stories?
I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, that is the case. I haven't heard that's not the case, but I personally didn't notice that. So I'm going to have to check out for that.
May have just been me. Yeah. Alyssa, did you notice any difference there from the styling?
No, I did not, but that's interesting.
Okay. Cool. But otherwise, I think it was good to give us these 3 episodes at once, because you're right. If we just had one episode and we had to wait a week, it would feel very anticipatory. Now with the 3 episodes, I know that each story is just going to build on it, and I feel that I've got sort of a good firm background for where this season is going.
Well, especially since all 3 of them were kind of setting the table, I feel like if it was one week after the other, it'd be like, oh, come on, you're still setting things up. But just drop them all at once. And then I think that was a very wise decision, actually, to do it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I will say, because Alyssa mentioned earlier, I thought episode 1 was kind of boring. I didn't think it was boring, but I thought it was really short. Like when it ended, I was like, really? That's it? So I think it was very smart not to show that by itself. Like he definitely had to release other episodes with that. Otherwise, it would have been extremely disappointing. I was like, that's it? That's all you're giving us? So yeah, I definitely agree that I like they dropped the 3 at the same time. It seems to be Amazon's new format. They did that with The Boys just a few months ago. Now they're doing it again with The Expanse. Also, hello to Edward Bedore in the chat, saying a big Bobby Draper fan, which I'm always a fan of. I love Bobby Draper. And also, time to wait one episode a week like the old sci-fi days. And I'm all for that. Although maybe he's not all for it, because after the end of episode 3, I'm like, God damn it, I want to see the next episode. But hey, I kind of like having
something to sit with now for a little while.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say in response to you, Darren, is it's interesting. I don't know, I try not to mention the books too much, but I can't help myself. But it's interesting. Well, in this case, I'm going to mention it just to say how I think the show's doing better, because it's interesting to have the contrast between the way that the show sort of had these all the characters, and right away, because when the book 5 first came out, it was the first time the main characters, Alex, Amos, and Naomi, had their own viewpoint chapters. Like before that, they didn't have their viewpoint chapters, and they weren't really explored at all. And they were kind of like side characters. You get a bit of their characteristics, but they weren't as front and center as they were in the show. And I noticed the show took details from this book and incorporated it throughout the entire show, starting in season 1, season 2, and they drop hints about like Amos's backstory, Naomi's backstory, were all in the books. None of that had been hinted at all. So it seemed kind of like out of place and like more of a shock. So I liked the way the show handled it a lot better, that you had an inkling of that Amos was a gangster on Earth, and you had an inkling that Naomi had a son that she was looking for, and that Alex had an ex-wife that he screwed over. So I think it made these storylines a lot more powerful. The fact they were able to slowly weave this in throughout the entire show's run.
Well, yeah, because now it does. It feels like a payoff for those hints and storylines. There is an anticipation. That you're right. If we hadn't heard any of this, then it would have been like, oh, shock, that's where Amos came from. But we wouldn't be like, oh, he's going back to Baltimore. I think it's a little more of what we had going into this season.
Oh, and Edward says, I have read the books as the seasons came out, so we'll start reading Nemesis game in February. Oh, that's interesting. So watch the season first and then read the book. That's an interesting way of going about it. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into some of these storylines. Let's start with Holden on Taiko Station, where they're describing, I watched a couple after shows about this, and they're sort of describing it as he's feeling lonely and abandoned. And there's that one scene, I don't know if anyone catched it, where he was flipping through like his received messages. He was flipping through like Amos and Alex. Oh, do I have any message? Do I have any message? And no messages, but he has a message from Monica Stewart, which he wouldn't care less about. It's like, oh, this is just annoying. So that's kind of funny to have that sort of like the Holden was like the man left behind. And I think Holden's definitely an important part of the show still, and has, Alyssa, you mentioned earlier, like he was in all 3 episodes, but I feel like he's not like the main character. He's not like the Holden show the way it kind of was in season 4, which I like. And it sort of spreads it out a bit more. And it's interesting that he's the one left behind, but then we have the mystery crop up with Monica Stewart. At first, he's very dismissive of her, but it turns out she is onto something big, and she gets kidnapped, and they team up with Fred Johnson and Bull, a new character they transplanted from book 3 and put into this storyline, which I thought was pretty cool. I didn't expect to see him. So I thought that I was really intrigued on. I thought that worked. What are some of your guys' thoughts? I guess we'll start with you, Darren. What did you think of this one?
It's funny that you mentioned that about Holden being sort of regulated almost to a backstory within this. And yeah, strangely, I was really all right with it. I mean, I like Holden. He's a great character. I love his evolution as a captain and responsibility, and sort of how he's dealt with that and tried to find a balance with it. But Yeah, I was, again, so much more interested in the other little stories of what's going on. Well, what's going on with Bobby there? Of course, what's going on with Amos, what's going on with Marco and some of those other aspects of the story. So I didn't really sort of mind that much. It was funny seeing our reporter return. It was like, oh my God, we're bringing her back. But I'm a little more sympathetic now. I mean, I guess being stuck out in a container in the middle of Taiko Station is a reason to maybe sort of evolve a little bit. So I'm kind of intrigued with where all of that is going. Bull, who's was it Jorge Zanega? Is that the actor's name? I'm trying to remember. I was making my notes, but I have chicken scratch.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't remember myself.
He always looks familiar to me. I've seen him in a few things. I know he hasn't been in sort of a lot of stuff, but he reminds me so much of like in a dark evil monk. Like if like he was tough and everything. This is exactly what he would be like. So every time I see him, I sort of get that little back image in my mind. But I'm intrigued. Again, I'm sort of curious who these people are and what's going on. Of course, I have my suspicions and such already, but I think that means it's got me hooked. It has done its job. But yeah,
any suspicions that you want to share?
I do feel Bull might be involved in this somehow. There's too much prejudice. There's too much anger and things going on. Obviously, it would be odd for him to be associated with the OPA or any of the Belters with his prejudice and such. But if this is some Martian or Earth come back, we want to take a stand, from these people that have been pulling on us. I don't know.
Okay.
Whenever there's any high security eraser of tapes, I look at the guy who deals with all of the security first.
Yeah.
That's just where I go. And like I said, evil monk. I see that he's going to be involved somehow.
All right. So, Alyssa, your thoughts on this storyline?
Well, coming into this season, I was wondering how they were still going to make the proto-molecule relevant. I didn't want them to just drop it because I knew it was going to be all about Marco and trying to attack Earth and all of that kind of thing. So I wasn't sure like how they would still make the proto-molecule still relevant. And so this is a good way of doing it. I'm really, really intrigued with this mystery that they've set up. Also, I've always liked Fred Johnson as a character. I forget which season. Was it last season? There was one season where he just kind of disappeared and you never really saw him.
Yeah, last season he was only in one scene the entire season.
Yeah. So it's good to see him again back into the story and interacting with Holden. And I love to watch your videos, Mark, because I get little tidbits that, like, I remember you mentioning Bull from our season 3 discussions, how that was a character from the book that they had cut out and given his story to Asher and Drummer. And so that was interesting. I didn't catch that that's who that was until I watched your review.
Well, I didn't even catch who that was until episode 2. Like the first episode, I didn't catch it.
Yeah. Also, you said that one girl was a character from the books as well. You thought maybe it was a male character, but you couldn't remember.
Yeah, I forgot I haven't looked that up yet. I could have sworn it was a male character.
Yeah. Well, all I could think about was Tilly. Remember she was that. She was Project Discovery. She had the same accent.
Yeah,
like she somehow had a Belter accent when she was on Discovery. But
they tried to play it more as a Jamaican accent.
Yeah, they were trying to play it more as a Jamaican accent in Discovery.
That's where I've seen her before. Okay, I heard she was on. Saw that she was on Discovery, and I couldn't remember where. But yeah, thank you. All I needed was that voice, and I know exactly who she was.
Actually, it took me a while for that to click too. I was like, I think I looked it up because I was like, where do I know this person from? And I looked it up. I was like, oh yeah, of course.
No, I instantly. I was like, that's Ghost or from season 2 or go whatever. She was a not a proto-molecule, different show, mycelial network. thing in Discovery. But yeah, I was like instantly, I was like, oh, what is the girl from Star Trek Discovery? But yeah, so I'm really intrigued with the storyline, and I agree. I wouldn't say that Holden's necessarily like taking a backseat, because I feel like all of the storylines are basically given equal weight. I feel like maybe ever Sorella, I felt like got a little less airtime, but like I feel like overall, it's there wasn't one storyline that really stood out as like this is the main storyline. So it's not that he's like taking a backseat necessarily, but that he's just relegated to, instead of being like the main show, like the big spotlight on him, he's just kind of relegated to being as equal to all the other storylines. So I do like that too. I like that approach as well. I will say that I am looking forward to, hopefully at some point in the season, seeing our Rosinante crew back together again, because it's an ensemble cast, they're a crew. So I'm looking forward to that, but I'm also enjoying all of their separate storylines too while we have them.
Yeah, it's definitely a change of pace, which I think worked well for the books, and it's working well for the show too. I just have to mention in the chat, Edward was saying that, or Baker thought that, was it Baker Est 1984? I believe something like that. But saying that like the actor who plays Bull, which Darren mentioned, I think he's a good actor. And Edward mentioned that he thought he liked Bull better in the show than the books. I personally disagree, and I think I went on this rant about season 3 that I actually love the ending. Like the ending of the third book was my favorite. That's why I'm hesitant to say book 5 was my favorite book, because the ending of the third book was my favorite, and I think the show really shortchanged that and left a lot out by leaving Bull. But I talked about that at length when I covered season 3 already. That's just my opinion. There are certain things that I do think the show does better than the books. I'm not like what you might call the book nerd or book fanatic, like, oh, the books are always better. Not true. I think there's a lot of things the show does better. I just don't think Bull is one of them personally. I just think his portrayal, like I like the actor, but his portrayal, I thought he was a bit like the way he said racist terms about Belters, like that didn't make sense to me, because he works for the OPA. It seems like he should be a bit more tolerant of Belters, and also the way he was like all whiny and complaining about everything, where Bull in the books was a bit more stoic. And so I hope they kind of move this character around.
So where's he from? He's not a Belter? I didn't catch that.
Oh no, he's not a Belter. He's from Earth. So
I didn't catch that.
So he served, like the backstory in the books, if they keep it in the show as well, is that he served with Fred Johnson when Fred Johnson was in the UN, and he also like had an incident with them where he got drummed out of the UN, and so Fred Johnson recruited him to join him in the OPA.
Yeah, because he feels definitely more, I'm loyal to Fred Johnson, and we're going to make Taiko Station this thing, versus with the Belters. I mean, I think the opening with going after Naomi, and even, you're taking up a slip, and good guy discount, good guy but discount. What's that? Oh, it's before your time. Very much trying to establish the fact straight out that he doesn't like Belters, and he is very pro-Earth. Which, again, is one of the reasons why he's automatically suspicious to me.
I mean, maybe that's why they're playing him that way. But in the books, again, to talk about the books, he is more of, he had to prove himself to Belters. Like all the Belters there were discriminating against him for being an Earther. And to me, that makes more sense. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm open. I'm willing to see how it goes. I'm not saying I don't like this character entirely. I think they're like, I like the way he works with Johnson, Holden, and like the little trio that they form. Like they all bring something different to the table, and I think they all work really well together. So that aspect of it, I did really like.
Yeah, no, it is becoming, and it is a nice little almost, detective story that's happening, and with there versus, well, I guess there's a couple of detective stories happening throughout this.
Yeah, definitely. And also want to say hello to everyone. I saw Rob from Smirking Gun jumped in. How's it going? Thanks for joining. And so any other thoughts on the Holden storyline before we move on?
Yeah, I had something and I just lost it. What were you just talking about a second ago? Because it was, no, it had to do with. It's gone. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
No, I think it was good. I do recommend that if you do feel like you're in a container and there happens to be an O2 sensor, maybe hacking at the doors isn't the right thing. That's the first thing I thought was like, there's intentionally a big box that says O2 level steady. Yeah, don't. Yeah.
I just remembered. I just
sure.
remembered what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't to do with Bull. You were talking about detective stories.
Oh, yes.
Because what I was thinking as I was watching this, I was very it made me think of Miller from season 1 and how he was like this. He was like this old school, whatever noir detective, thrown into, a sci-fi setting. And so it reminded me fondly of Miller then Holden was now the detective unraveling this mystery on Taiko Station.
Yeah, I was going to say that this storyline actually reminded me a lot of Miller's storyline in season 1. It has that same sort of feel.
Yeah.
And of course, episode 3 was directed by Miller himself.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's cool.
Yeah, and the other thing I guess I wanted to talk about was also Fred Johnson, because it seemed to me when the actor joined the Orville that he took a step back from the Expanse. Like in season 3, he didn't appear that much. And in season 4, as we said, he was only in one scene. And I knew, coming into book 5, that Fred Johnson was a major part of book 5. So I was actually worried that the actor would refuse to do it and they would have to recast or write him out or something. But I'm glad to see, maybe it's because the Orville's on hiatus, that he's I'm glad to see him back and taking a major role. And the interactions between Johnson and Holden, I think, are great. Is very reminiscent of the way they didn't get along in season 2. How Holden's all worried about the protomolecule, and Johnson's just like, I'm not going to tell you where it is. Don't even ask. Blah blah blah. But they still sort of work together, but have a slight antagonistic relationship, and that I think really works well.
Totally agree. I really like their dynamic as well.
Yeah, and it was funny because also I had no idea how that the protomolecule was even going to be involved so much more when this, like Alyssa had mentioned before, how was this going to be inserted in with the story? Was it just going to be dropped or carried on? So to me, it was kind of a fun way to keep that element alive within the story, and keep its danger too. Because again, it's like Holden tells him, you can't mess with this. Even messing with it, other people will want to mess with it, and you can't control that. So ultimately, it only ends bad.
I just thought of something. It just made me feel like certain shows will do this, where there's a character is always right every time, but the other characters around them refuse to listen to him. Like every time Holden warns about the doom of the protomolecule, he's right, and yet people still don't want to listen to him. But I think I kind of lost it, but someone in the chat earlier mentioned that the protomolecule was in the lab that was stolen, but that's not actually the impression I got. The impression I got is the protomolecule sample wasn't there. It was just the scientists were there, and they broke in and they killed all the other scientists, and they stole Kotzazar, the main dude who was all the way back from season 2. Yeah, that's the impression I got. Is that the impression you guys got as well?
Yes, that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, precisely. So it didn't seem to be the one, and in fact, there was something from Johnson that seemed to imply that it's not here, it's not that. He was more worried about the scientists, not that they would have gotten something else. So
yeah, and it seems like they're still worried that the protomolecule might be stolen. At least Monica Stewart is. Yeah.
Sure, but he wasn't like, oh my God, they also have the molecule now too.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and move over to the next storyline. Let's talk about your main man, Darren, Amos, returning to Earth. And these are just don't know what to say about these scenes other than it's classic Amos. Like, it really, really shows why this character is so interesting. And I think you touched on this earlier, Darren, is that it's the sort of dynamic duality that this is like an evil, like villain type character, yet he works for good and he does good things. And so that makes him really dynamic, is being a cold-blooded killer, but yet like helping people, like the way, and we saw him on the ship where he was being very standoffish and asshole-ish to the other people in the cabin. But when these gangsters come trying to run a protection racket, he still sticks up for them. And it's funny because he even says, "Oh, I didn't do it for them." So it's kind of like he does good and he helped them out, but really he just wanted, that's not why he did it because he wanted to kill some people. He wanted to fuck some shit up, which makes
they were alive when I left them.
That was such a great one.
I love that. Amos, I think I may have said this in the past on our discussions, but Amos is like, he's the best kind of hero to have on your side, because he's a hero who does not have the bounds of a normal hero. He's a hero who's like a villain, who does not care about killing people. He doesn't care. He doesn't have like these rules that other heroes might have. And I love this character, and this is when I did not like him in the first season that much. It's when they definitely, I feel like, developed later, in my opinion. But I love him now because he's just so. I love the scene when he first meets Charles, I think is his name, the older guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because he is so, like, he's threatening him. He's like, "You better tell me what I want to know." But then he's like, "Yeah, I'll have some tea." And then he's like, just kind of like nice to him. And then like, "All right, don't worry, I'll take care of you." Like, I love just that really interesting dynamic within that character of being this really hard ass, but also being a softie. So good.
Well, yeah, I think especially dealing with Pax was such a great sort of small arc with the character as well. It's funny because I was actually describing him to the character to my daughter a little earlier today. She hasn't seen the show, and I'm like, "You should check this out." But he's a character who recognizes his own deficiencies. He knows that this, connection, sympathetic, good part of him, that he is lacking a lot of that, but he recognizes that he does, and he misses the fact that he doesn't have that anymore. I think that was one thing, again, with the whole bit of Pax, and even beforehand, maybe it was Holden that he was talking to. I can't remember. You guys probably do. When he was talking about not feeling things in the same way, and the crew was like, "Well, I wish I could do that." And he's like, No, you don't.
Alex, he was talking to Alex about that.
Yeah. And
just a quick correction, it's Prax.
God, I did that also all that season. I keep losing that R. Horrible. And literally, I just rewatched season 3 about a month ago, so I have no excuse at all. But no, again, this was a fun, and again, it was. I'm not sure exactly where they're going with his storyline here. I mean, I know what they have covered seems to have been so quick that I thought was going to be a deeper stuff going into his background and where all of this came. And they seem to, at least from my standpoint, almost satisfactorily wrap that up with a couple of scenes and discussions. I'm like, I don't really know if I need any more of that. We're obviously, wherever the story goes, I'm going to be with, because I like the character. But yeah, Alyssa, you the same thing when he had gone and see Lydia's husband there, and was again gotten so mean and scared him so much that again he recognized that, oh, I'm scaring somebody that somebody I cared about loved, so maybe I shouldn't do that. Literally, it's like he's got to think about these small little connections to get through it. And yeah, like you said, he's the hero you want on your side, because once he's committed to you, he's going to go all the way.
Yeah, and then another thing, I think it was pointed out to me, but Amos is like, I guess he's a sociopath, so he's very like socially awkward in a lot of cases. And I think that came up in the scene with Charles, that he just didn't really know how to, like, Charles is trying to have a normal conversation with him, and he's just like, "How'd she die?" and just like cutting straight to the thing. And even when he started being nice to Charles, he was like, "Okay, I'll have some tea." Like, he's not very, like, he's a bit socially awkward, and I think that was a very sort of interesting aspect of his character.
That makes it endearing.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't have the social skills for sure.
Also, I don't want to forget to mention his just awesome scene with Avasarala. And I didn't know I wanted more of those two together, and I so do. You know, if he becomes her little assistant, like, okay, you need my help with something, then I'm going to need your help with something. And yeah, I could see the two of them teaming up.
Yeah.
That would be great. What was it? I'm a member of parliament, not your favorite stripper.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say, if the show stays true to the books, then he will keep calling her Chrissy.
Yeah. That's great. I think my big question in this storyline is, moving forward, is what does this have to do with anything? Like, I'm interested in it, don't get me wrong, because I just am interested in Amos as a character. But don't answer this is rhetorical.
Okay.
So I don't want you to actually answer the question. It's something I'm wondering as we move forward.
Yeah.
How does this tie in with the greater storyline? Because right now it just seems like a side plot that with Amos going off and doing his own thing that has nothing to do with, like, Alex and Bobby is tied in, Holden is tied in, Avasarala, they're all tied in, but it's just like, what does this have to do with anything? I don't know. So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but I think maybe that's why it felt like a satisfying wrap up to this Baltimore question is, oh, this is how you did it, and this is what we do. It's like, are there specifics they don't answer? Sure, but I don't care. You gave me the broad strokes of where he was from, who sort of helped him, and what the maneuvers for him to get him out, and that he can't come back. That's all that I need. But if this gets him onto Earth so that he can then do something else, like I said, exchanging with Avasarala, you know, because they need a favor from each other, and that's what gets him involved in this aspect of it. That's the only reason I see it, is like, oh, he's here to wrap this up so he can go to his next thing.
Yeah, but he's staying on Earth because he took that phone call. He called somebody at the end.
He called Avasarala. He says,
was it Avasarala?
Yes. He said, Chrissy, I need something from you. I'm never coming back, but I need something from you first.
Right, but he wanted to meet with somebody, right? And she could arrange it. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and Avasarala, yeah.
So he wants to go meet with some mysterious person.
Sure, yeah.
So
and again, that may be interesting. I just want him to be hanging with Chrissy now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one thing I think the show actually did a lot better than the books in this storyline was having the flashback of Lydia sort of teaching Amos when he was a little kid, and it really explained his sort of mentality and how he grew up to have the sort of attitude that he did, of very apathetic, not caring about anyone, but also how she sort of made it clear, like, I am not going to be your moral guidance. And so it seems like he was always looking for someone to be that guidance, and eventually found that in Holden and Naomi. And Alyssa, you mentioned earlier about how you didn't really like Amos in season 1, and I agree. I think the show kind of mishandled him in season 1 because they made him very antagonistic towards Holden, which I just don't think worked. And in season 2, they kind of corrected that and made it more like the books, where he looks at Holden for moral guidance and just follows what he says. And I think that's when he became a much better, much more interesting character. And I think that flashback sort of outlined kind of perfectly, like, the attitude that he has now currently.
You know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go first.
I was just going to say, it's kind of funny you say that, because for season 1 into season 2, I mean, I get where they might have been going with the, you know, whatever the differences are in the books, But to me, I saw that as part of his arc, is that Holden had to earn his sort of respect, and did throughout the adventures of season 1. He was attached with Naomi and very much on her side. And then with Holden and doing his thing, that slowed over. So by season 2, when he's latched onto Holden, to me, at least from watching it and not being able to compare it to anything else, it was more earned. Like, oh, this is him starting to reach out. And then with Prax coming on board, that was something else that reached out. And now he's like, I need to kind of clear up my background. That feels archy to me.
Oh, and don't forget his relationship with Anna. That was good too.
Oh, that was very good. And it did actually do some big, larger arcs. I just keep relating it. I just keep thinking of the line is, does this mean we're not?
Oh no, that's with Way on season 4.
Oh, yeah.
Pastor Anna.
Pastor Anna.
3.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Juliet.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. But that was a great line. That also illustrated how he's been socially awkward.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say, I wanted to ask you a question mark about the B word, because I was really curious. I got the impression from a review that the whole Timothy thing was not from the books, because you seem surprised by it. So is that not in the books, that he is called Timothy and he takes the name of this gangster?
Okay, it is in the books.
Okay.
So I wasn't surprised that his real name was Timothy. I didn't know that he took the name Amos specifically from a dead gangster that he killed.
Okay.
Maybe that's in the books and I just forgot. Maybe someone in the chat can point that out to me, but I don't remember that from the books. I do remember that his real name was Timothy and he took the name Amos later when he went into space, but I didn't realize he specifically took it from a gangster that he killed.
Oh, okay.
Only for the layers of the onion unpeeled throughout the story. So what does it say? Correct me if I'm wrong. In the books at this point, we have had numerous Dutchman events when translating the rings. In the show, there haven't been any yet. What does that mean, Dutchman events? I'm not sure. Translating there. Oh! Okay, that's getting to book stuff. No, I don't think they've gotten. I think they might have gotten to that in the books, but I think they're saving that for later in the show. Sorry, getting into some more later on spoily stuff. Okay. Oh yeah, and there's also a short story called The Churn that gets all into Amos's background, which I haven't read. So those who have read that would probably know a bit more about Amos's backstory. They mentioned that in the chat there as well. Cool. So any sort of other thoughts? Or what about Eric? I thought that was actually a pretty cool scene with the dynamic, because Eric was like terrified of Amos. He was sure Amos was there to like take his shit. He's like, no, I just want to help the guy. It's like, oh sure, I'll help the old guy, whatever. And he's like, I love you, man. I love you as a brother. It's so great seeing you. But if you show your face again, I will end you.
I have to admit, I didn't really buy that character as I couldn't picture of him as being some big gang boss, like this wimpy little skinny little 20-year-old looking guy with a limpy, like with that limpy arm. Like I had a hard time with that. I will have to admit, like I did not buy it. I mean, I believed it because the show told me he was, but I didn't buy it.
I mean, that's how he was portrayed in the books as well. And the books went into a bit more detail about how he's like really smart and clever and witty, and that's how he became. Which, I'm not surprised you wouldn't get that from that one scene. They didn't really make it very clear.
Yeah, well, I mean, I sort of felt the balance of the two of them was the smarts and the muscle, and he was able to arrange something, and whatever the position that got him into where he was is also the move that got Amos off of Earth. That for some reason that rise was associated with Amos leaving. So they had, I mean, I sort of got that they were a story. I admit he doesn't look scary visually, but I figured that there was some sort of, he's a genius planning, methodical psychopath.
Yeah. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying this, but there was something that they left out from the books that I was really disappointed, because in the books when Amos went to see Eric had, like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he had a system that was ready to kill Amos. Like, all he had to do was press a button, and Amos was like aware of it the whole time and was still being a badass.
I think they implied that with the gun. When he left the gun on the table and walked away,
kind of
like, you're not
implied
going to do it. And he's like, you don't need to test me. Because all I'm thinking is, well, he wouldn't have had a non-loaded gun to point at Amos if he's scared at him, and yet he shouldn't leave a loaded gun on the table if he thinks he's going to turn around. So, yeah, they implied there was some sort of thing. But, yeah, it was a much quicker scene than I expected it to be.
And also in the chat, several people, Dina and Peter, had pointed out that the information that I didn't know that they took Amos Burton's name, that was in the short story, The Churn. So that's why I don't know it, because I didn't read that. Okay, so let's go ahead and move over to the next storyline. Let's talk about Bobby, Draper, and Alex on Mars. Now, I talked about, if you saw my reviews, I talked about how in the first episode I didn't like the fact that Bobby was treating Alex like shit, and I was like, why don't you just ask for his help? And in episode 2, she does eventually ask for his help, and it seems like maybe she was keeping him at arm's length because she wanted to protect him or something, but it seemed like she should have just asked for his help to begin with, because it does seem like he was quite helpful. And this storyline also reminds me a bit of the Miller season 1 storyline as well, because it's also about like a deep conspiracy that they're investigating, and there's all of the ins and outs. And I talked about how when Draper had that hologram thing that popped up with all the pictures and lines going to it, it was like the futuristic version of one of those boards where everyone has strings attached to all the pictures.
I love that you said that in your review, because I thought that same thing.
Yeah.
It's a murder board, isn't it? They use it in all the detective ones. This links to here, and these are the people that here connected to that, and yeah.
Well, getting off topic, but my favorite version of that was in BoJack Horseman, where he's like, "What do these characters have in?" And he puts up a picture of the rapper Common. It's like, "What do they have in common?" But anyway. So I thought I wasn't like over the moon about the Bobby Alex team up, but I thought it worked. Like, it was interesting seeing those two characters again, except for, Bobby being sort of an asshole to Alex at first. I did understand why his wife was ex-wife was an asshole to him. That made total sense. That was quite a brutal scene as well. But I will say this part in in episode 3, where he had that meeting with that aide, I thought that dragged on for too long. I didn't think that needed to be quite that long, because it was mainly just telling us stuff that we already knew, the audience. But it was interesting how he went to that military admiral, and he was being an asshole to him, but then the aide comes up, "Oh, you're so great, I want to talk," but they're really just playing him. They're doing like a good cop bad cop thing. So that part of it I like. So what are your guys' thoughts on this storyline, especially since, unlike me, you don't know where it's heading or where it's leading to? I guess we'll start with you, Alyssa.
I felt the same way that you did about Bobby's behavior toward Alex in the first episode. I thought she was being unnecessarily mean to him. I thought she was a bit of a bitch, and I didn't understand why she was behaving that way. But they did sort of course correct that in the second episode, which I would have I expected that they would. If they had carried on not doing that in the next 2 episodes, I would have really been pissed. But I figured they would team them up by the second episode. But I did. Like I said, that's why I didn't love the first episode. I didn't love Bobby's storyline, especially in the first episode. I didn't. Yeah, it didn't. But I would say overall, not that the storyline is bad or anything, but compared to all of them, if I look at all of them overall, this is probably my least favorite one. Maybe with the drummer one wasn't that exciting for me either, but I don't know. Not that it's bad. I do think it's obviously building to something really interesting. But yeah, it in a lot of ways felt a little cliche, you know, like you said with the string, the murder board. But also it was like when Alex was like, "Oh, this guy is the biggest patriot to Mars there's ever been." He would never. I was like, "Bad guy." I mean, that's so cliche, you know, like, "Oh, he would never do betray Mars." Like, that is the baddest of bad guys of all bad guys. I mean, it's so obvious. Yeah, and then the whole, I don't know, like him giving a lecture at like giving a big important lecture at a college and Alex walking in and watching. That seemed like there was a lot of cliches in this. Like that was also a very cliche scene. So again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm very, very interested, and it's very cool to see these two characters together and working together. Because Bobby was, correct me if I'm wrong, she was isolated from the rest of the main. She had these other characters she interacted with, but right, she was on Mars and nobody else was really with her.
In season 4, yeah,
season 4,
yeah,
she connected with Aversorella at the end. But so it's great to see Bobby interacting with other characters again. It's great to see these two characters again. And I know that it's heading somewhere really good. But so far it's probably through the first 3 episodes, I would say it's one of my lesser favorite episodes, but that's not, or storylines, but that's not to say that I disliked it.
Yeah, I think you hit some great points, Alyssa, there with the cliche aspect of a lot of the bits of the storyline. They almost, I don't know, it's one of those where it's like, do you play into those cliches or do you just move through them? I don't know, interesting ways of telling the story, I guess. Yeah, Bobby was a little harsh on Alex. On the other hand, Alex seems profoundly oblivious to reality. Which I find, I mean, the fact that he just shows up at his wife, I'm like, even before Ring, I'm like, oh, you called ahead of time, right? You're not just oh no, you're just showing up out of the blue. To God, I mean, it really does. It really does make Alex seem like he is not really cognizant of reality sometimes, or has any taste, because that bar was awful. I think they intended it to be awful. When you have saddle bar seats, I mean, that's it. I understand a country bar, but that is like way over the top. Everything about that was bad. I guess the music kind of remix was okay, but went on for far too long. I am glad that they kind of got over that quickly, and you're right. If that had lasted any longer, of that back and forth, it would have really dragged on. I'm excited that they're going to go in. I think the 8 is probably the guiltiest. Maybe she's using her boss as cover because him being guilty is too cliche. She's got to be the one that actually is maybe doing things on the side. But...
Well, I mean, there's that scene where the Admiral says to her, "Find out why he's here."
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, sure. No. I mean, but I think that might be the red herring part. That's all I'm saying from the story. Again, these are my guesses. Mainly all I was thinking was, yeah, it sucks on Mars, doesn't it, Bobby? What? Get on the Rossi. Everybody wants you on the Rossi with everyone else. So just get on the ship, clear up whatever you guys got to do here and get out. Oh, and I do love that that they have the razor back. That Alex took the razor back.
Oh yeah. I forgot that they still had that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yeah, that was kind of a nice little surprise. I mean,
yeah, where were they stashing that? Where was the razor back?
A closet on Taiko.
Yeah, probably. It might have been in storage on Taiko. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that was kind of fun. They did, of course, have to make the requisite. Well, I'm glad you're not on the Tachi because then you wouldn't have let you leave on it.
See, that annoyed me. Those Martians need to let it go. All right, the Rosinante is not yours anymore. Just let it go. Get over it.
Especially considering, as they're saying is, he's the first Martian that went through the ring, the first Martian on an alien world, that he has a name. The Rossi obviously has a reputation now. Let it go. Be proud that that's a Martian ship that they crew, that does all these things.
Yeah. I don't know, my overall impression of the Martians since the beginning of the show is that they're not very good at letting things go. Like they,
that is true.
Like, Earthers, we will hate you for the rest of time. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah. So it's within their character, I think.
Sure.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I'm not saying it isn't, but it's still annoying. So what else was I going to say? Edward says Alex needs to get drugged more often. He would make a fun stoner. I thought that was a funny scene. The whole true story where he was like, "I'm going to find out if he's selling weapons to the Belters." And I like the kick where Bobby ends up, or is it Bobby or Alex? I think it's Bobby ends up stabbing the woman who used it. So she has the true serum. So when she's been dragged away by the police, she's like, "See ya!" I just thought that was funny.
Actually, I found that interesting that the cops got pulled in. I mean, obviously, Bobby's not, is independent. The working for Krishnava Sarala is undercover, doesn't have any connections. But I was like, wait, you just told them that you're actually after the guy, and now you're going to turn them over to the cops? They're going to be like bailed out quick, right?
Well, here's what I thought. Didn't Bobby say earlier that the cops are in on it? So
yeah, she did. So
she just turned them over to their friends, probably.
Yeah. I was very confused. That was the one part where I was like, wait a minute, is this the right choice? Because it seems like you got to get out of here now.
Well, I mean, at the least, though, they didn't tell them everything. They were holding things back from them because I think they knew they were in on it. But there was what else are they going to do with them other than kill them? Which
Well, that's the thing.
Alex told them all that information. So if the cops are on their side, then they'll just all that information will be passed on.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess they already know anyway, because one of the things he said was Bobby was working with them, and they know that now anyway.
Yeah.
So
So that was the only thing. But obviously, like you said, what else are they going to do with them? They can't just dump the bodies out somewhere,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why they couldn't have dumped the bodies out somewhere.
There is one thing in the storyline I wanted to mention because I forgot to mention it in my review, which I thought was a really nice scene that showed Bobby getting a message from Isai's wife. Now, Isai was the dirty cop that she worked for in season 4, selling underground stuff when he got killed in the final sort of deal that Bobby told him not to do, but he did it anyway and he got killed. And so it seems that she had paid for his family to go off in the colony ship, which is what he had planned to do after the big score. So it was really touching scene. It was like a nice memorial to Isai that she wanted to pay for his family to go off and do what he would have wanted them to do. But also the way that she was saying, "Oh, you're a true hero, Bobby. You're a true hero." It seems like those words are like she didn't believe them, like they hurt her or stung her because she didn't think of herself as a true hero, that she was doing this more out of guilt because she felt guilty for getting Isai killed. So I thought that was a really powerful scene, I thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, it shows how much Bobby is gone and also how much Mars has lost. I mean, the cop was only doing this because everything on Mars is falling apart. And you're right. She was supposed to be security and warned him not to do it. He did it anyway, so she's going to take responsibility. But I think seeing what they've done with the reflection of how empty Mars has become, both as a planet and as a society, and even as a drive and identity in many ways. I think that's something that Alex is holding on to almost too tightly with his love of the Admiral and everything he says. And Bobby's experiencing the reality of it, of no, it's all gone. And when you talk about this Martian, honor and fight, she's looking around like, yeah, that doesn't mean anything anymore. So yeah, I think it's a great way of showing how far she's come and what she has lost, kind of in a real short scene there.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. So if there's nothing more on Bobby, we can move over to the next storyline. We'll talk about Naomi. And we mainly get her sort of arriving at Palace in the final episode, in episode 3. I don't think she was in episode 2, right? She skipped episode 2. But in episode 1, we see her parting with Holden, where she's like, I'm going to Palace to find my son. Holden's like, okay, I'll get the roast-nate ready. She's like, no, I booked passage on the freighter. It's like, okay, I'll go pack. It's like, no, you don't get it. You're not coming with me. And I thought that sort of was a nice scene for their relationship. But I do wonder if that was a mistake, that Naomi is being a bit prideful or like trying to be private, and that really she should have taken Holden with him. I mean, I understand. I think her concern that having an Earther around would like make it more obvious that she's out of place and people would be less willing to trust her. But he's like, look, I'll wait on the ship. And I think it was dumb to not take him up on that offer. I don't know. I'm seeing some nods, Darren. Do you agree with me on that one?
Oh, I do. I mean, I completely, I understand what you're saying, what her thought process is I got to go to my son. It's got to just be me. It was my decision and I don't want to be tied down. I mean, I get that kind of noble, misdirected intention right there. But no, you always want backup. You never go by yourself, especially not deep into enemy territory when you know your son is mixed up with a wanted terrorist and everything else that's sort of associated with that. Is she trying to protect Holden? Sure. But if Holden's storyline wasn't needed on Taiko, he would have stored on the back of that other ship and would have been hiding out in the hold right now, ready to do like an Amos pop and surprise moment. Yeah, I think you're totally right. And in fact, well, Alyssa, you were mentioning that Bobby's and Alex's might have been one of your least interested ones. Oddly, Naomi's is one of my least interested storylines in with this one. Because I just think that again, I get why she's doing it and that she's got to connect with her son, but it's also, I don't know, I don't feel the same kind of emotional draw. It just seems like she's going in to make some really bad mistakes, which is really what exactly happens in the first 3 episodes in the bit of her storyline.
Yeah, but I think it's understandable that she has a blind spot as far as her son is concerned. I think she's definitely is not aware to the extent that he's involved with Mark. He doesn't realize that he's out there killing innocent scientists and stuff like that. And so, and I think she doesn't want to be aware. She's being willfully ignorant because she wants to think that her son is still a good person who can be reached, which doesn't seem to be the case. So, Alyssa, what are some of your thoughts on this one?
Well, I was glad that they avoided this cliche storyline that I thought they would, because The Expanse is better than this. Although I guess there's still room for them to do this. But like the whole cliche of like she goes to see her son like pretends to love her and goes, "Oh, mommy, it's good to see you again," and it's like using her the whole time and secretly working for Marco, and she falls for it. Like, I was not too concerned because I think The Expanse is beyond that kind of thing, but I was glad they seem to seemingly bypass that. I guess they could still go back to that, but I don't think so. There was like a moment when he goes into her ship and they look at each other, and for a second she thinks that, "Oh, you're here to see me again," but then like they knock her out and all that stuff. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I know I'd like to see them connect in some way. It'd be interesting to see them connect in some way, but as long as they avoid the whole, like, I don't know, either him pretending to love her, or then at the end he's like, "Oh, mommy, I really love you." Like, that would just be a complete character change, it seems like. So I'm glad they seem to be avoiding all of those kind of things. So as far as her storyline overall. Like you mentioned, Mark, she was absent in episode 2. Amos was absent in episode 3, but I feel like Amos's storyline overall packs a bigger punch. So I felt like her storyline is just really just beginning now that she has been captured by her son and those other 2 people, that old guy and that other woman that she knew from the past. Now I feel like it's really getting going. Like I feel like everything else before that was just leading up to what's to come, and we didn't really. I just feel like we didn't really see her that much. It's interesting because her missing an episode, it feels like she was hardly in it. But Amos missing an episode, it just seems like he still was really in it because his storyline packed a punch in episode 2. So I'm interested to see where we're headed, but definitely really a lot of setup for these first 3 episodes for her storyline.
Yeah, I think you hit an interesting point there, Mark, when you're talking about kind of Naomi's naivete with approaching her son. Even her solution, the fact that she bought this ship, which makes sense because when she got on it, she said that it was, I caught this transport over, and she gets in messing with the controls. I was like, did they let passengers just sort of jump onto the bridge here and start messing around? But even her idea of like, I bought you this ship so you can take this ship and run away, and then I'll take care of you with her. There is such just a fantasy-filled naivete with that, just even whole approach. It seems so odd for her who is experienced and known so much to think that with a couple of gifts she can pop in and go, I'll make everything up.
I mean, I buy it for her character just because I think she has a blind spot where her son is concerned.
Sure.
And I think she wants to think the best of him and isn't aware of just how shady he's become. And so she couldn't even fathom that he and her old friends, too, they were like reminiscing at the bar that they would show up and steal her ship and like shock her and take her prisoner. And I think that was definitely naive on her part. It was definitely a bit idiotic, but I do buy it for her character because I think she just has a blind spot as far as her past goes.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that there. Yeah. And
I do want to say I really love the scene when she was talking to Philip, where she was like trying to convince him, and she's like, "I gave you a ship. You can go away from Marky. You don't have to go with me." And he's just like, "Fuck you," which is again, I kind of likened it to Alex's relationship, the way Alex abandoned his family, and now Naomi kind of did it. Now it's been longer for Naomi, and Naomi had a lot better reasons to do it, but from Philip's perspective, he doesn't see it that way because he's drinking Marco's Kool-Aid and just thinks that Naomi just abandoned him because she doesn't love her or because she was a coward or some shit. So yeah, I thought that was a really great scene.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, again, they're great actors, and I do love the turnaround where Alyssa again avoiding the cliche where she does this and, he kind of buckles and maybe has that connective moment is that fuck you and just throwing it right back at her face. To me, that was the interesting thing. It was, and I guess that's where I talk about the naivete with dealing with this is as an audience, as an outside person, you see this gesture and go, well, this would never work. But yes, as a parent, when you're like, what can I do and how can I reach him? I'll give him something so he doesn't have to be there. Yeah, it does totally make sense for her. But yeah, I love how they did handle that in a very not cliche manner.
And we've been kind of building toward this since the end of season 4 because we knew that he was working with his dad and he was evil and all that, and Naomi was like, "Oh, my son! I gotta find my son." Yeah. So all of this so far, is pretty much as expected. So now I think we're at a point where it's going to get more interesting for me, because this was kind of what we've seen so far is just kind of a continuation of what was started at the end of season 4. Yeah, I'm looking forward to now what happens, and do we get to see when are we going to get to see Marco more? Because that's the other thing about these first 3 episodes I was talking about how they're set up. We just see Marco looking, doing evil. And
I was surprised about that because the actor who plays him is listed as the main cast member for this season.
Yeah, so I assume he will be, but that just further adds to the fact that these were really set up episodes. They're saving him for, some big stuff later on, I feel like.
Yeah, and I agree that Naomi's storyline, they were just like setting it up in these 3 episodes. It's just getting started, so it's now just about to kick in.
Okay.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead and move over to another storyline that takes place in the belt. Let's talk about Drummer and her little merry band. Now, I did. So again, bringing up the B word, it seems like they have directly given her a storyline from a different character in the books, which I knew that I kind of thought they would, but they like full on like gave it to her like more so than I expected. So from my perspective, it seems a bit jarring. From Drummer's characters, I'd be interested to hear from not reading the books, your guys' perspective, if this seemed out of character for Drummer to all of a sudden be leading a group of pirates that actually pirate and steal the supplies from the colony ships. Now, granted, they don't kill them. They purposely, that's what sets them apart from other pirates. They purposely leave them alive, but they still steal all their shit, which is like, this is what they were going to colonize the entire planet with. So it's like a ridiculous amount of supplies that they're ripping off from these colony ships. And I think this is, personally, I see this too drastic of a change from in Drummer's character to all of a sudden, because Johnson didn't do that much to piss her off. He did hit him in the previous season, and it seems like a contrived, we want to give Drummer Michio a storyline, so here we go. But I'm curious if it seemed jarring to you, or if it's just for me because I read the books. Alyssa, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know that I would use the word jarring because I had no idea until I watched a review that they had given her someone else's storyline. Yeah, I mean, when I think about it, I guess it's out of character. I kind of didn't feel that way initially because she was letting people live, and I don't know. And I just felt like maybe she was just kind of mourning. Did she know for certain that Asher was dead? I don't even remember. In my head, I thought she knew Asher was dead and she was just sort of mourning.
I think that she kind of assumed he was.
Yeah. So, and she was just like not in a good space. And so she's doing, and the fact that she was leaving people alive, like to me, that seemed in character with her. So I didn't actually, until you mentioned it in your review, and then I thought about it more, and I was like, yeah, I guess that is really out of character. But my initial reactions were not that it was drastically out of character for her.
And I just want to clarify something for the chat, because Sentient in the chat mentions that thank God they gave Micho's story to Drummer. And I just want to clarify, I'm not like upset that they gave her Micho Pa's storyline. Actually, was expecting them to, and I think it works. I just thought they would go about it a bit more gradually and sort of gradually ease her into that storyline instead of like boom, all of a sudden she's Michio Pa. That part I just thought was a bit jarring. But anyway, Darren, your thoughts?
Was it jarring? I don't know.
That's bad, Darren.
Yeah, sorry. I had a jar here. I couldn't let that opportunity go. Yeah, honestly, I would have to say, yeah, and it does make sense now that you mentioned it that they're giving her somebody else's story, because I was trying to figure out what she was doing through like most of that first chunk of her, first episode, the chunk of her story, because I thought initially she was a cop going after the other pirates. And then letting them go, but making sure that they didn't kill anyone. And it was only kind of afterwards when they're like, oh, well, you've taken everything from us. Well, we left you with your life. When she was first saying, I forwarded your message off to the UN and they'll send somebody out for you in a couple of days. I thought that was her police Belcher, job going out. I'm keeping the transportation lanes clear and brushing off the pirates. It took a few minutes for me after that to realize, oh no, this is her pirate area, and those were encroaching pirates. Why is she a pirate now? That seems out of character for her. So it to me, it did feel a little bit jarring. I kind of got to it afterwards when you think about it, that like, oh, well, if she's lost Ashford and she did sort of step away, this is what she's picked up. Maybe it was a simple life. Now it's getting more complicated because she's going to get this whole revenge arc going in. Chess pieces moving around in a board. I eventually bought it. But yeah, the idea of her suddenly now being a pirate, I really took my brain a while to grasp that that's what they were, the arc that they were giving her in this. Also, a lot of naked sleeping on that ship. Nobody likes clothes at night. I get it, cool. But
so one thing I had confirmed for me by an interview with the showrunner is that because the character that they gave Drummer's storyline to in the book, she was in a polyamorous relationship with her entire crew, and they did confirm that is the case in the show with Drummer. That all the people that they're sitting around going yeah and drinking and all that they're all like in a polyamorous relationship with each other, which I thought was a pretty interesting aspect of the book. And the producer talked about it more, how that makes sense for people being together in a spaceship for a long period of time in an enclosed area.
And it makes sense for Drummer's character. I mean, I totally bought that that works for her. It was just one of those interesting shots where it's like, oh, okay, I guess they're establishing what kind of crew this is. Okay, cool. Pirate life for me, man.
Yeah, and I thought... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mentioned in my review about the shot when Drummer was like looking really pissed off and sad and upset after she found out Ashford died, but their entire crew seems oblivious to this and is like, hey, we're celebrating. I was like, doesn't anyone there notice like how upset she is?
Yeah, I noticed that too when I was watching it. So what I was going to ask is, didn't they not leave her storyline, at least for now, that she has given up on this idea of going after Marco, and she sent the thing off to Fred Johnson, who then sent it to Sorella. So, I mean, not to say that she couldn't still go after Marco, but wasn't the conclusion of that episode that she is, because they didn't outright say it, but the impression that I got was that she has given up on.
Yeah.
That was what they were doing.
That was the conclusion. Yeah, that one woman, I don't know their names specifically, but the one woman convinced her to let it go and that it was too risky and they could risk all their lives going after Marco.
Yeah, well, Darren talked earlier about how he didn't trust Bull. I think that woman's definitely working for Marco.
Okay, see, I will go with that. Because, I totally saw that like, I'm not going to do this until next episode when I'm definitely going to do this now. So I'm just waiting for that shift to happen. She's going to hear once it hits, she hears about it hitting Earth or somebody else involved that gets closer to her, or she gets a line on him. Yeah, this I'm not going after him maneuver is not going to last.
I did really like how they played with her guilt over Ashford's death and how she felt really guilty about that. I thought that was powerful and really well done. So that, to me, made the storyline interesting enough to justify its existence.
Yeah, you know what? I was really upset when she let Marco go in season 4. So she should be guilty. Like, she fucked up. She should not have let him go.
I like how they even played like an audio clip when she was entering the ship for the first time. Yeah. Because it was sort of letting the audience know that's what's going through her head. It's like, shit, I'd let Marco go, and so this is all my fault.
Yeah. It is. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have done that. That was a big mistake.
I completely agree. Completely agree.
Someone in our season 4 discussion, I'm pretty sure we had last year, was defending. Was it Don? It must have been Don because
I may have defended it at the time.
Well, I mean, I understand the political move of why that decision was made, but obviously, you know, you're flipping a coin. Is this going to save things, or is this going to potentially let somebody loose that goes crazy? You know, I mean, I got why she did it. But you're right, it wasn't a smart move, and I don't think she even agreed with it at the time, but she was trying to be advanced, and maybe that's what has pushed her into this pirate lifestyle.
Yeah, she was afraid they'd start a civil war, and she could have been correct, but in retrospect, maybe that would have been better. All right. Cool. So, let's go ahead and move over to our last storyline that we're going to discuss tonight. And that's Member of Parliament Chrissy, my favorite stripper. No, Alyssa, and her storyline. And also going to talk a bit about, the threats that she's investigating, which is from Marco and Aris. And where she's convinced he's throwing asteroids at Earth and no one will listen to her. Now, in season 4, when they had this debate between Alyssa and Nancy Gal, I was like, shit, I'll vote for Nancy Gal. Like, Nancy Gal was like so convincing. So if I voted for Nancy Gal, this would be the time I'd be regretting my vote and be like, fuck, I shouldn't have voted for her, because she is being such petty, vindictive little, by just like, oh, fuck you, Avasarala, I'm not going to listen to you and your crazy conspiracy theories. And it seems like she's purposely just doing it to spite her, not because she doesn't disagree with any of the information or she's purposely doing it because she doesn't like Alyssa, and that's terrible leader. So that was very irritating. I mean, the way other people were treating her were kind of like, oh, you and your crazy conspiracy theory. Sure, Marcus is trying to throw Aster. Maybe it's because I've seen the end of season 4 and I know that's actually the case, but it doesn't seem like that's that crazy of a conspiracy theory. It seems like they should be giving it more merit than they are. So it seems to me the only reason they're not is just to spite Alyssa, which is the pettiest, beyond pettiest. But anyway, what are some of your thoughts on this, Alyssa?
Well, what I want to know is what happened to the Belter and the Earther and the Martian who went into the bar. Like, he never get to finish that joke.
I know! It's going to be like the Tyrion's joke about the jackass in the brothel.
I was into it. I was what the punchline was.
I know. I thought at least after the hellos, he'd continue on with the joke, but no.
Yeah, I was really pissed off about that, too. But I think, in retrospect, I think that joke is just there to illustrate that that's kind of meant to be like a racist joke, and sort of meant to illustrate that the Earthers still see themselves as like superior to Martians. Because we didn't hear the punchline, but I'm sure it would be something that's mocking Martians and Belters.
Yeah, probably. So who is this guy? It seems like Sorella always has to have a right-hand man. He's new, right? I don't remember him from before.
Yeah, he's new.
Yeah.
This is a new character this season. Yeah, and to my knowledge, he wasn't in the book, so it's something that the show made up. But so he's basically like her biggest ally. And in fact, they kind of made it clear throughout this episode it's her only ally left, because apparently, like in season 2, she had like tons of allies, but now apparently she burned all the bridges, and she even said that herself. She burned all her bridges, so he's the only one left. So that's pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of felt the same way about how it just didn't really make a lot of sense that they would not believe her, or like, oh, this is such a crazy conspiracy theory. And I think on the part of Nancy Gal, it's definitely petty. But for the rest of them, I think it was more plot contrivance. Honestly, like that's just how they needed to be for the plot, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense that they would be that way. But let's see how they react after the end of episode 3, with the asteroid hitting the Earth. Are they still going to? Oh no, that was just. I mean, can they come up with some excuse for that and still think she's crazy, or they
That was
like
just a natural stealth covered satellite. Nobody.
yeah.
And I do like the foreshadowing when they brought the scientists in. They're like, so what would happen if an asteroid hit Earth? He's like, well, that's impossible. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, so I assume they're going to explain that because he was like, oh no, we have the asteroid destroying shield, whatever it's called, like the system that automatically destroys asteroids.
Well, no, they pretty much already covered that because it was covered in stealth technology.
Oh, okay.
And that's beautiful final shot where they had the one like Guardian, the next one, and it just shoots right between the two of them like in a flash.
Yeah.
So that's why Avasarala wanted to. They have like a watchtower that's capable of detecting stealth technology, and she wanted to redirect it to guard Earth, but they refused it. They're like, oh, we're not going to listen to you, blah blah blah, and they have it pointed at Mars, which she pointed out is not a threat at the moment. But as far as they're concerned, Mars is the only power that has stealth technology. But of course, Avasarala is aware through Bobby Draper that a lot of the stealth technology, Mars technology, is on the black market, and so anyone could have it. And so and also, I don't know if you made this connection, but at the end of season 4, when Bobby and Eastside made that big deal where Philip came and killed them all, that's what they were selling. They were selling the stealth technology that he then used and put on the asteroids.
Yeah. I've got to agree with Alyssa in the idea of that. I get they want to put Avasarala in this position where she's kind of alone and doesn't have a whole lot and has to do the uphill battle. I do find it hard that she has burned so many bridges in that sense. I mean, she has done a lot of great stuff, and then she was president without even being elected. Or what UN, I can't remember, whatever the head position is right there. Secretary General, thank you. So, I mean, she has done a lot. She has been very much of an advisor. The fact that she lost this election and had the big kind of fallout with the colony there that kind of spurred Gao's rise, I get, but would that have burned so many bridges? Wouldn't she have connections to do that? That was the only thing that kind of pulled me again. I get where they want to put her. But also, Gao is so petty. So petty. So dismissive and petty. And look, she doesn't even look at her on the dean when she's going through the meeting. She's not even looking at everyone. She's just taking her notes and like dismissive of all. She needs to go down.
All right. So Sentient in the chat says, talking about the joke we talked about earlier, wasn't the joke finished by that scientist coming in and ordering a bourbon? So that's the punchline. The Earther comes in and orders a bourbon. I don't get it.
No, there's more to it than that. No, that was not it.
I mean, could that be the punchline because the Martian and the Belter want to drink the drink of their enemy, where the Earther is like, I'll just have my own drink? I don't know.
No, they didn't finish it.
No, they denied us the joke. If that was the end of the joke, then it's a bad joke.
Yes, exactly.
I have a question though. I don't remember ever seeing her daughter before. Have we seen her before?
No, I don't believe so. I know that we saw her granddaughter in season 1, but I don't think we ever saw her actual daughter.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember. I was like, oh, she has a daughter? I mean,
they did mention she had a daughter, but I think this is the first time we saw her.
We've actually seen her. Okay.
Yeah. And wherever that asteroid strike was, I kept thinking, I knew from the map that we saw that was going to be up, it looked like Russia-ish or something, certainly from the writing, looked that way. But I was thought
Scandinavia is what I was thinking.
Scandinavia, that could be it. But I thought for sure the way they were setting things up that it was going to be hitting Avasarala's house, that Husband is now by. This is the last thing that you can do is leave the message because you didn't make up with him, and now he's dead on Earth, and it's going to be your fault. I really thought they were going that way, but I don't think they ended up doing that.
Buzz Nacho in the chat says it was Northern Africa. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, that would be a little too much, though, if Marco like specifically targeted.
that he specifically targeted for her, that it just happened to have done it. It's just again, the tropes that they build up, like, well, you should get back together with this guy. Well, you only have one last phone call. That's always when they kill people. So that was just my expectations on that. I did like the detective bit. I mean, as always, I always love them when they're figuring things out and taking the little beats and their suspicions and sort of bullying. I like them pulling in the scientist and kind of giving him the questions and like, well, what do you think it could be? Well, it couldn't be that. Well, in case that it was, I kind of like that figuring things out. I like they did that really well. I really like the insert shots with Marco and the idea of it letting us know as an audience the impending doom that nobody else is aware of. On the other hand, outside of the, wonderful use of guy liner on him, Marco is not a particularly frightening bad guy to me right now. And I think maybe it's the using him less is better. But I don't know. Even last season, I wasn't like afraid of the guy. I don't know if it's just the voice or his term, but he just, I don't know. I think the less is more for Marco right now.
I thought it was kind of ominous the way they played like Avasarala and that Admiral guy we're watching, Delgado, I think his name is, when they were watching that recording of Marco where he's talking about we hate them, they were gonna make us hate us and stuff. I thought that was quite ominous. Like I do think they are making Marco more scary this season than he was the previous one.
Yeah, and maybe that's better work. Again, seeing him around with the map, I'm like, I feel ominous. On the other hand, you just feel like you should be up there going or something like that at that point. Maybe that's just me. I'm getting punchy. 2020 has taken everything.
Oh, all right, so I got a question for you both. Have not read the books. Were you surprised that the asteroid actually hit Earth? Because they foreshadowed this at the end of season 4, where Marco revealed the big reveal. He was sending these asteroids with stealth tech to hit Earth. Were you thinking, oh yeah, they're gonna find some way to save the day and it's not gonna hit Earth? So were you surprised it actually did hit Earth?
I'm surprised it took that long. I was hoping that was the opening thing when they had it going past Venus and so on. I mean, obviously that's the foreshadowing. But no, I mean, I figured the only way to get anything going is the action's not going to start until one of those things hit Earth. And in the sense, if they're dropping the first 3 episodes as your, chess piece movement, and it is the perfect way to end your 3-episode bit. If we're waiting a week with that shot there and like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Because that's all I'm going to think about for the next week. It was a beautiful way to end it, but no, I had a feeling Earth's probably going to get hit a few times before they figure anything out.
Yeah, I don't know. I was, I guess, mildly surprised, but not too surprised. I think I was leaning toward they would probably, somehow find a way to stop it, but then I wasn't like totally shocked when it actually did hit Earth. I thought, like Darren said, I thought that was a really great way to end that first chunk of 3 episodes. And leave us on a little bit of a cliffhanger for next week. So I love that ending. But I was kind of leaning toward they probably will stop it, but then wasn't like totally shocked when it did.
So Buzz Nacho in the chat says our RIP Fish Finder 5000 guy. Like, What the hell was he doing? I didn't get it with those glasses when he was looking out at the fish. Was he just like fish watching, like kind of like bird watching, or was he a
No,
fish
maybe with
eater?
those glasses will like help him locate the fish, and then he fishes.
Then he goes fishing. Okay.
But he was just throwing bait in. I thought he was just like, I'm feeding the fishes. This is what old guys do.
Yeah,
Kind of like feeding the ducks. Yeah.
yeah. I was confused too what he was doing there.
Yes, I will lament his loss always. Whoever the guy was, yeah.
That was such an amazing shot, though. The way they showed the asteroid hitting through the reflection on his glasses, and then of course the shockwave coming through. Like, I really feel like they're really upping their game as far as special effects go.
Yeah.
Oh man, they're spending that Amazon money well. Yeah. That is true. That is true. But they've built this up. I mean, even the previews for this season, when they did finally drop the trailer of what to come, it was very much like this is what stuff has been building up to. Now things are ramping. This is especially while last season was interesting, it was all out in the middle of nowhere. You're on this far-flung planet, you're out on Ilum, and you're seeing these machines maybe rise, and maybe these few people are in danger. Everything is so much different now, and it makes sense what has happened with Earth, with Mars, with the belt, what Marco's drive is. I mean, it does feel like this is the natural progression for things, and for it to really, ramp up high.
I feel like I have to point out in the chat, Stinchian says about the fish finder guy. Unfortunately, he sleeps with the fishes now. Wah, wah, wah. Not really, because his body was kind of obliterated.
Probably so were all the fishes. So probably were so all the fishes too. I think all of that is obliterated. Yeah. I don't think there's any fishes to sleep with.
All right, cool. So, we'll go ahead and wrap up our discussion here. Do you want to have any quick words on what you think might happen in the next couple episodes, what you're excited to see, any theories, any things you're waiting for, anything you want to mention?
I have no theories, really. I'm just excited to see what happens with the protomolecule storyline with Holden. That does seem to be a little bit. I mentioned Amos was separated. That does seem to be a little bit separated from the other stuff with Marcos and the the stuff going on Mars is all tied into that. So I'm just intrigued. I'm curious to see like where this is all heading, and I don't really have any specific like theories or ideas of what's happening. I'm just want to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, outside of thinking that that evil monk Bull is guilty of something, guilty of something. I don't know what. I'm really, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've been very excited about this season. I really want to see where the larger issues kind of come together. I'm curious how they're going to start joining together a lot of these separated stories because, well, I think, a couple of them will definitely just be existing on their own. The way that these seasons have come together, you have these different pieces and they all start to overlay and people reconnect and so on. So I'm kind of curious how to see that. Basically, I just want to get Bobby on the Rossi. I think she needs to get off of Mars. I think that's a dead planet. Let it go. I don't want to see any more cowboy bars. If we can avoid that, I'm going to be very happy as well.
Cowboy bars are huge on Mars, though. Yeah. They're all the rage on Mars.
The Mariner Valley, especially.
There is such a call for those saddle bar stools. It's a whole sub industry there on Mars. But no, I'm really sort of curious how they're going to interlay a lot of these larger storylines. But yeah, look, Earth just got hit. There's got to be more to it. That can't be an easy fix. We got to have some serious fear. If I had one question, it would be how did the Belchers get all the way up to Mars and get onto that science ship just before the asteroid was going to show up in order to take all of their data to hide it from everyone else? But, that was just set up. I'll go with it.
Oh, no, that was Venus.
That was Venus, yeah.
Yeah, so that's even further away, but whatever.
Yeah, I know. That was the one thing I'm like, really? You got all the way out there and then all the way back? Okay, I'll go with that.
They have the spore drive.
Okay, see?
Sorry, different show. Sorry.
I'm not overlaying my sci-fi correctly. That's my problem. But no, I'm really excited to see. I can't wait, and I'm really glad that they're doing this one episode a week, and that we have 10 episodes. I mean, it's a good chunky season as well, so really a lot to dive into going forward, and I'm really stoked to be able to talk about this every week over here. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and sign off. We'll start with you, Alyssa. I guess you're not really up to much, but sort of give a shout out of whatever you want to shout out.
I'm up to this. This is what I'm doing. So I will see you guys again in 2 weeks for episode 5. I'm taking the week off next weekend. Don will be joining you, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I just look forward to chatting with you guys again in a couple weeks.
Cool. And Darren, you're up to a lot, so
yeah,
tell the good folks where they can find you.
Got a few things going on. Hi, I'm D. You can catch me over at D's Reviews. We are just wrapping up The Mandalorian. We are doing a Fandalorian kind of group chat, been doing every week. Big wrap up is going to be this Saturday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, live. We also just wrapped up our big season 2 review for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're doing one season a month. January is going to be season 1 of Agent Carter. Then we'll be doing season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. February, and then season 2 of Agent Carter in March, and then back into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with season 4 moving forward in April. So they've been a lot of fun, a lot of insights, a lot of discussion, a nice group of people. So really excited here. And then outside of that, you're going to find me here for the next 7 weeks or so, chatting with Mark and Alyssa and Don on occasion about the Expanse, and really excited to do that. So cannot wait to see all of you here again next week.
Cool. So finding me for the first time, I'm Mark. My channel's Enchantment of Eternity, and as both these people already mentioned, you'll find me here every week with Darren, and then sometimes Alyssa and sometimes Don, talking about the Expanse each and every episode. I miss doing this. So season 4, we missed it. I love being able to come here and discuss each episode. Of course, this week it was 3 episodes, but from now on it will just be 1 episode at a time. So looking forward to that. And also I will do my own separate reviews for each episode of The Expanse as well. And I cover many other shows like Star Trek, and Discovery is also going. I'm dropping my review for the latest episode tomorrow. I'm gonna drop my Discovery reviews on Friday. That way it's not sort of to kind of space it out a bit from the Expanse reviews. And then I'm covering other shows retroactively, like Breaking Bad, going through each season, and also The Outer Limits, the 90s version. Enjoying that 90s callback. So that's what I'm up to. So thanks a lot so much for joining for this video, everyone who joined in the chat, and everyone who's watching this in the archives. Thank you so much and for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.